Thanks for everyone joining us today. It seems like we have an incredible crew on a very important topic. I think a topic we wish we all knew more about and had this thought leadership about many years ago. So I'll kick it off with an introduction. My name's Brienne, live here in San Francisco. Background is former management consultant and turned product marketer. And so I've worked at SalesLoft, LinkedIn, and Nextdoor, and now have been consulting a multitude of companies and excited to get back in and work full time again as a company since I missed that collaboration and team building and working alongside all these amazing people. And so, one thing we'll have everyone share is what's some of the best career advice you've ever received to kick this off. And so, some of the best career advice personally I've received is to own your career. Make sure that you're in the driver's seat and not depending or leaning on others for whether that next step, that different piece there, and really taking that ownership in terms of what's next. And if you need a mentor, going out there and getting it. If you need help on something, raising your hand to get that help to own your career. And next, I'll hand it over to Diana to share more about herself.
Thanks, Brianne, and thanks, Alex, for inviting me today. My name's Diana Smith. I've been in product marketing for B2B SaaS companies for a little while now. Started at Segment, I've been at Twilio, and most recently was leading product marketing for HashiCorp security portfolio of products. I'm actually on a 2-week break and I'm starting a new job on Monday. So it's been a little bit of a fun time for me. In terms of my best career advice, this happened when I was used to working in really early stage companies with founders who were very directive about what we should be doing at all times. And the advice came from a CMO that came in and she told me, hey, you're so used to getting direction. What real leaders give you is context, and you take that context and turn it into your own direction. And that really helped me from being into the fight or flight of like, yes, we do this one thing, no, we don't do this other thing, to being like, how do I think at a higher level and take the context from leadership and build my own plan? Awesome. Happy to hand it over to Harish.
All right. Thank you so much, Diana, and thank you everyone for joining. We have a good list of attendees, so let's have a good 1 hour together. Harish Perry, I currently run product marketing for Okta, which is the actually, you know what, I have the wrong background. This is the Okta ad, but we're the world's identity company. We're the front door into all of cybersecurity, so pretty big mission that we have. And I got into this via multiple tours of duty at Salesforce, being a product leader, being an engineer, being just kind of running the entire gamut, being a CMO for a bit, but always found my way back into product marketing because I feel like that's the true magic of where everything, it's in the middle of everything, where sales meets product meets customers. It's there's a lot of magic here. And the career advice, I think the advice I received that shifted my perspective from being a kind of a frontline manager to thinking like an executive is to watch your say to do ratio. Because what happens is as you get higher up in an organization, your word is what must be delivered on, and there's nowhere else to hide. You have all the resources at your disposal. If you make a claim that something is going to happen, it needs to happen. So this accountability is something that I drive very hard with all of my teams, which is it's fine to say things, but if you say things, I'm like a steel trap, and it better happen. So anyway, that's advice I think even early on, if you become someone that is you can rely on and you know that it will happen no matter what, that will take you very, very far over the long run. And Sean,
Love the
I don't
accountability.
I
Yeah.
didn't need to popcorn to you, but yeah, you're next.
All right. Hey, Sean Regan here. Excited to join ShareBird. It's been a while. Leading product solutions customer marketing at ServiceNow. For that, led product marketing for Atlassian. And got into this whole game from working in an IT department, then joining a Series B startup that got acquired into a 5,000 person company, merged with a 10. It's just been a wild ride. Best career advice that I think came from a mix of that, where um, a leader left, and I thought I was the obvious answer to run the team, and I was expecting for that person to ask me, "Hey, do you want to run this team?" And they didn't. And one day they said, "Hey, I'm in the final round of interviews with the next manager, and we should have a decision in the next like 2 weeks or something." And so I said, "Well, wait a minute. Why didn't you ask me if I wanted to be a potential candidate for that role?" And he said, "That's not my job. That's your job. You need to ask to get in this life, Sean. Do you want the job? yes. He's like, great, your interviews start tomorrow. Let's go. Like 3 days later, I had the job. And the lesson from him was that you're not going to ever be a leader if you sit here and wait for people to ask you and invite you. You need to ask the question and you'll get feedback. You aren't ready. You haven't done this in your career. Fine, take all that feedback. But if you don't ask, no one's going to do it for you. And so ask to get would be a small bit of career advice from my side.
Yeah. Love it. Already a lot of learnings. I feel lucky to be around this table with the three of you. And what came out of what you've highlighted is all three of you have very different backgrounds in terms of what's gotten you where you are today. There's a fisherman in here, there's a former CMO. We just have a wealth of background here. And so dive in, add your questions to the Q&A, upvote what you want to hear more of, because wealth of knowledge coming today. And with that, to kick it off, would love to hear from you. What core skills separate a good from a truly great product marketer? And how do you go about celebrating those skills? And Sean, we'll kick it off with you this time.
I think there's a really simple one here, and it's more of a organizational skill than a talent skill, I would say, out of the gate. This is the noisiest market the world has probably ever seen, period, let alone in tech. Product marketers often get trapped by doing a bunch of things, a big list. I can promise you a Forrester white paper, as wonderful as it is, isn't going to change the market. So the one, I guess, advice and skill I would say is that the best product marketers figure out how to show up, which is to nail the fundamentals, but that's what we all have to do, and stand out. So get the fundamentals done and then figure out with the remaining energy that you have how to make it stand out. And one of the ways you do that is by focusing on big hits, not big lists. It's so easy to have this big list. Sales region, Europe wants this, and South Africa wants that, and plus Gartner's, asking us to do this. None of that matters if you don't have a big kick down the door objective. And so figure out what that big hit is, and then line up your resources and your energy behind it. And so that's part of it. It's just being organized in what you're trying to achieve in the market.
I love the big hits, not big lists. Definitely a tagline, if not a tattoo. Harish, would love to hear your thoughts.
Yes. Sean mentioned that there's fundamentals that we all need to know. What's interesting is those fundamentals are back in demand with, every one of us as vendors, but also every one of our customers is rebooting in an AI era. And I know I sound like a cliche, but it's very true. And so the skill that I'm seeing is incredibly needed is the ability to differentiate. Just like being able to get to the core of why exactly at this moment in time is your thing fundamentally different and better immediately than anybody else. And in an AI age, because what that will force you to do as a product marketer is to go back to product truth. It's going to force you to think through all the connections between all the pieces. It's going to help you think through the systems design of how everything works together. And then you pull apart the one thing that's going to set you apart, which likely connects back to the founding principles of the company anyway. So that differentiation is like the ability to differentiate is becoming even more and more important. And it's interesting, right? Like there's so much noise, there's so many acronyms, there's a new AI thing coming out every day. It's actually a good opportunity. Like if you are an okay product marketer, this is your time. Like figure out how to differentiate whatever it is whatever product you're on. This will be your chance to shine.
Yeah. And in the spirit of differentiation, what are some of your tips and tricks on how to get to that unique differentiation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased in a way because I've spent most of my life in very technical fields, in different industries, but where the buyers have a very low BS meter, so you can't market your way around them. And so I think there is the most important tip is like spend as much time as you can with your product teams. And like really understand where they're coming from and like listen very carefully to what they're saying. If you need to go talk to the senior architects in the company, even if they find you annoying, go make that happen, because in that technical magic is where there are nuggets of differentiation. Everybody can talk about increased revenue, decreased cost, faster time to value. In our world is reducing the mean time to breach and detection. All that's fine, but like the why, and like why now. So that there's always a lot of magic in the actual product itself, which I think it's almost like everyone has to go back to, I have to do this too, like go back to first principles. So it's become best friends with your product buddies again.
Hmm, I love that. Thanks for diving into your tips. And Diana, share yours. Good to great.
Yeah, I think Harish and Sean both shared really important ones. One of mine was prioritization, similar to what Sean was saying, of how do you make sure that what you're doing actually is going to impact the business where the business has the most challenge, because you could be doing all of the things. The skills I'd add, the first one I think is the building block for all the things you need to do as a product marketer in terms of messaging and positioning is curiosity. The best product marketers are extremely curious. They are never satisfied with the knowledge that they have. And this is applied to the persona. What is happening with my customer? What problems are they having? Why are they having? What alternatives do they have? It goes into really understanding, like Harish was saying, the product troops. What makes this better? How do we do it? I've been spending a lot of my career in technical products and I do not code. I don't know how to code, but I spend lots of time digging, trying to understand why is this valuable? Why are we doing it this way until I can explain it back? But then once I do that once, it's like, okay, that's fine for today. Tomorrow things are changing. So how are you constantly getting new information about the market, the product, your personas, and putting yourself in the stream of that information, whether it's newsletters, customer calls? I think this is actually an area where AI can really help you gather more information and insights about your customers. But curiosity is critical. And the main recommendation they asked me to say, how do you do this? Is say it and like keep asking until you explain it back and you actually understand what you're saying. There are periods of time where you're learning a new product where I'm saying the words back and I'm like, I don't know what secrets managed. I don't know what any of these words are, but you keep until you dig in and truly understand it. That's the heart of any good product marketer because that's what will make your messaging resonate.
Yeah, love that curiosity
Can
and
I just
knowing
build
that
on
our
that?
days, yeah, dive in.
I think curiosity about the customer pain is exactly where you need to go to be great. But then what product marketers do that spoils themselves is they go and describe their solution. They don't actually go and build on that pain. And no customer is interested in your solution until they understand your pain. And so go really build that curiosity about their product. You can talk about that and then go sell.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think what comes after that is the other skills I call synthesis, which is you have to take all of that learning and all of that information and really boil it down to the most important thing, whether it's what's the list, what's the message that's going to stand out, what are the things we really need to do, and that's comes after the gathering of the information with the curiosity.
Yeah. With curiosity, I love Diana how you highlight just dig, ask, read. Knowing that our fellow product marketers, our days are busy with meetings and all these other things, how do you carve out that space and that energy to be curious?
Yeah, I think that it's very easy to not do this. It's easy not to talk to the sales team. It's easy not to go to customer calls or listen to customer calls. The things I find most effective is building it into your day to day. Do you have a weekly block where you're doing something? Do you have a specific project you're working on that you can build that into your project plan? Maybe you have a new feature launch coming out, maybe you're updating your messaging. Can you build these components into a project you're responsible for doing now? That is how I think it's rather than being like, oh, it's a chore, I have to listen to customer calls once a week. Like you need to build it into your workflow and into a specific project you've got going on.
Yeah. Does anyone else have tips and tricks on how to make the time and the energy for this curiosity and diving deeper?
I mean, if it depends, right? Like if you're more senior in an organization, you have a little bit of flexibility to create your own schedule. You can create blocks of time and you could really control your calendar. Actually, that is an interesting back to the piece of advice. You control your calendar, you own your time. So if you get very intentional about that, then you create your learning blocks in there. But here's the thing, like with AI, like it's very fast. You can learn it, you can use AI to learn about AI very quickly. So I think the barrier to learning has gone down a lot because you have this model that has pre-synthesized stuff for you. So there are really no more excuses even to distill something as complex. So like if you're like, we're working on updating the MCP spec for cybersecurity. Okay. ChatGPT can tell me exactly what that is in English, and I can actually get the explanation. So,
Mm.
like, there's no more excuse at this point. So find the
Yeah.
time, like, and make the time. If not, literally, like, you're eating lunch, talk to your friend ChatGPT.
Yeah. I definitely echo the calendar
Harish, let me
piece.
pile on.
Go ahead, chime in.
Late, I think your word there is important, which was excuse. I've been told, oh, I can't talk to customers, sales won't let me. Or I can't talk to customers because I don't know who they are, or I don't have a Salesforce login. That's not true. You probably have a customer community or Hacker News or Twitter. And so occasionally some of my team may be on this call, we'd say, hold my beer. And somebody would just go and get what it was that people believed wasn't gettable in an hour or 2 hours. And so I think the curiosity is also bias for like just do it.
Yeah. I love the no excuses. I'm a morning person, so I block out time on my calendar for that curiosity and that deep thinking approach from that perspective that resonates with me. And you learn always so much from talking to customers. And with that, looking back on your careers, what habits or practices, we kind of started the discussion here, have really helped you up level your PMM soft skills? Sometimes we talk about the hard skills that um, need to check the boxes. As we know, soft skills are more important than ever. And so, what's helped you develop those skills?
I can I can jump here. So it's funny, we're actually running a PMM leadership program within my org right now, and this is like a list of very specific. I talk about the skills that take you from being a functional leader to an enterprise leader, meaning you transcend the PMM function. You can run a business, you can run a unit anywhere, even outside of PMM. Um, there's one very powerful thing, which is building a followership. And it doesn't actually matter what your title is. If you show up with the foundations, a clear vision, a great articulation of the vision, passion, drive, dynamism, the ability to like a way to show people that you're willing to just break through rocks to move towards a direction, you will create a followership. Now, people have to do it in their own way that's authentic to them and it's part of your executive presence, but that skill of like being able to create a followership anywhere is something that will serve you in your career when you leave him. Because ultimately, like, let's say you want to get to CEO, that is what a CEO does: rally your entire organization around a vision and just keep moving and don't stop until you get there. Then you get to the next plateau and you keep moving. So that building of a followership is huge. And then the other soft skill or I guess skill is like always be selling. Always be selling. And that means sell to the sellers to get you in front of customers. If they're giving you a hard time, walk in with a lead or walk in with a white paper, walk in with something you can trade for currency, but almost hold yourself to a number of customer conversations you can have in a week or a month, and then try to break that number the next time period. Because that is all your messaging, nobody gives a four-letter word about your messaging unless you can actually run it by a customer and get their feedback and then have them tell you that you're completely in the wrong direction. And that humbling experience every so often is key. So I think just the ability to like learning how to sell. You're selling your ideas, you're selling your influence, you're selling your access. Learn how to sell and then build a followership. Those are two big things that I just see as like a way that will transcend you into an enterprise leader.
Yeah. And would love to hear if anyone has a story around always be selling in terms of an example where it's brought them success or, tools to keep that top of mind.
I feel like Sean as an example, but I don't know. I mean, you can't be in service now and not be selling. Your audio, I think, is
It should be back now. I think
okay.
it comes
Yeah,
up
you're
if I'm loud and clear. Yeah, so look, one huge advantage in my career was I was in sales. And so when I walked into a sales-driven company, I was accepted very readily. I'd encourage everybody to do it for a little while, even if you just sit in inside sales for a week and make phone calls with people. It's incredible. You can test messaging 100 times in a day if you do that. But at Atlassian, we actually didn't as much because we were a very quantitative company, product-led. Sales wasn't our motion. 100% of new customer acquisition actually came through marketing, through the web. ServiceNow, hugely sales-led. I just can't encourage you enough to get out there and do it. I personally will choose to work the booth at trade shows, not because I was assigned it, but because I can get 100 customer conversations in a morning. And so I think the opportunities are out there. And the more you do it, and the more you meet the reps, the more they'll pull you in. And that does create one problem in your career. The last 2 weeks of the quarter, you can't get any work done. And that's a really good problem, I would say, for product marketers.
Yeah, I love it. Sign up for the trade show, everyone. Get in front of customers. And I always say your best salesperson has A/B tested messaging 100 times over. Talk to them, understand what's worked, because that's better than anything else your first draft on paper.
Yeah,
Diana,
I
your
mean,
thoughts? Oh, go ahead.
I think just making yourself available to reps. So, it's different in every company. It's actually the number one thing about product marketing is it's not the same thing it's different on different days. It's different who you ask, it's different in different companies. There are many places, like Sean was describing Atlassian, that have a more technical or a PLG bent where, it's product marketing's job is to market the product. Okay, it is what it is. But like you have to be a change agent to say that that's not all this is about. Like product marketing is in the middle of everything, and like not talking to customers is actually detrimental to the job. So like just putting yourself out there to the reps and saying, like, I'm willing to blow up my calendar and save you some time. Just get up there and do the, or platform pitch or whatever it is, or just even have walk through a specific product. I'm willing to do that so you don't have to spend a lot of time. In theory, people might say, well, they're enabled, they should be doing, yeah, sure, but they're trying to just knock out quota to go to club. So let them do that, help them get in that conversation. It's not just learning. From a career perspective, your credibility goes up. Like one thing I've learned to do is I will walk into any conversation with our senior most folks and be like, hey, I was just on the phone with name drop customer, huge, like massive global account. I was talking to their CIO. This is what they're talking about, identity security. Yeah, this is what I learned. Room just goes quiet because you bring a massive amount of credibility. Nobody can touch you. That's great from a career perspective. So like it's good for learning, but it's also good from a career growth perspective. And then people are like, oh, he's the guy that talks to customers, and your brand starts to build. That's another important.
Yeah, those are great recommendations. And similar to that is one of I think it's a hard skill. I don't like the soft versus hard skill delineation, but influence is really critical as a PMM because you are in the center of everything. If you want to influence messaging and you want to influence leadership to approve your messaging, if you want to influence the roadmap for product, that's something that creates skill. And I think there's a couple different ways to do it. One is bringing customer examples, like Harish mentioned. I also think data is critical. Like, do you have data on the fact there was something at HashiCorp where I was advocating for a pricing change. It was very challenging to do that because it's can impact so many different things. So I went and I got the churn data and the impact for what part of that was due to pricing. And I went to leadership and I was like, this is irrefutable. Like this, you need to do this, right? So there's ways to do that. The other way I like to influence is by finding out who are the important people who are going to help you build your messaging, help you build your projects, but also who does the leadership listen to? There's probably new leaders who joined your teams. They probably have a couple people below them who are like their go-to people who are like, does this really make sense? Like, is this true? Like they have their people. Those people need to be your people that you're bringing into your messaging testing, that you're bringing them in as like a core part of your working group whenever you're launching something new, whatever it may be, that they're already bought in by the time you go many levels above them to get feedback and guidance. So that's another skill that I think is critically important. And usually you can get a lot of good feedback. Maybe you're wrong. They'll tell you earlier
Yeah.
before you go all the way to the top.
Yeah, I love that influence through customer perspective. I was leading the largest launch of the company for that year. It's supposed to be huge, and our beta test was saying, not that big of a change, not that big of a difference. Really, so I pivoted the messaging, and CEO was like, no, this is our biggest launch. And being able to say, here's what we're hearing from customers, and here's how we can pivot the messaging to be relevant to them, add value, and meet them where they're at versus being irrelevant and us just thinking what it is, but needed that customer data points and the validation to be able to make that pivot from that perspective. And please, folks, continue to chime in with your Q&A, upvote those to hear what's most important, what you want to hear from this phenomenal panel. And that we're going to ask one last question before we turn it over. And so I'm like looking at the list here. For PMMs looking to step into leadership, what skills and perspectives are most important for them to make that pivot? And Sean, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's one of the, I think it's one of the biggest small things that can change how you're viewed by leadership. Communicate in business outcomes, not in tactics. So many product marketers come to me with their tactics, and people don't know if that's, we did the presentation at the company event. So what? But if you can say 172 people attended the presentation at the event and 52 skipped a step in the pipeline within 30 days, and that's faster than it would have naturally happened, leaders will hear your voice very differently. And so I think about really, it's a product marketing job. Like, your work is the product you're marketing. And so, yes, we all do events and trade shows or breakout sessions, but the leaders speak to the impact of that very clearly. And a dollar sign does not need to be translated across functions and across geographies. The business understands that. So I think that's one I'd point at.
Yeah. Harish, do you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, sure,
How
sure.
to
Thank you.
pivot?
Yeah, so there's like one meta thing and then one tactical thing, which is the tactical thing is related to what Sean said, which is you really have to work on your executive presence. So that feels like a big company thing, and people might say, "Well, I'm a 100-person startup." That's not. I think maybe then the term executive presence is not even the right term. It's, to me, it's as simple as, can you, if you set up a call with like 6 people, can you walk in and own that space for the half an hour that you're there, get the outcome that you wanted, even if that's collaboration or if that's communication, whatever it is? Are you doing all the things to make sure that they look at you as someone that can lead that one thing that you're on and keep moving? So it's like there's cultural differences in our world. It's, we have different types of meetings. You gotta have executive summary. It feels painful, but when you do that, you can see, oh, this person is crisp. They value time. I have confidence that if I gave them a big, hairy, audacious problem, they will run with it. That's what and that you can demonstrate at any level. And that is, as Sean said, outcomes over tactics, but it's also how you show up. And if you really want to move up and move up, you have to care about that and invest in that and how you show up. And it's a process even for me. I mean, the way I show up to our executive team, there's work to be done. The second question really is, you have to ask the question, do you want this? Because people think, and this is a lot about career ladder design within organizations, and not everything needs to be a people management path. Engineering teams have shown that you have the senior architect track, that it's an IC track where you're an expert, and there's the management track where you actually don't, you lose touch with the code over time, but you're there to manage the engineering team. That might be an interesting path for PMMs, because we're also an expert function. So it's a question to ask as well, of like, moving up by managing people isn't the only thing. Maybe you're a horrible manager of people. That's okay, right? But you're a phenomenal PMM. So how do we turn you into a seasoned expert and give you a track? So that's more like a note to managers and leaders to create the right career pathing. But you have to ask that question. So one is like, cultivate your executive presence. And the second thing is like, make sure you really introspect on which path you want, and don't make it a foregone conclusion that managing people is the only way to move.
Yeah. Harish, I love how you just like two myth busters there. One is that there's a linear path. and really tapping into what do you want to do? What's that passion? Which can sometimes be the hardest question out there. And to your first point about executive presence, and would love anyone's input. What is executive presence? How do you unpack that? Like what it actually is? I put it up there with strategy. Like you need to be more strategic. You need to have more executive presence. And it's like, okay, what does that really mean? And to your point of owning the room.
To me, it means being clear and being concise. That is, leaders don't have a lot of time. Usually PMMs know all of the details. They know all the things, and the leaders don't want to hear it. I think the people on my team who I've seen grow the quickest are the ones that put away the details and say, this is the most important thing. And they say it calmly and clearly. And if they're asked more questions, they can back it up with a wealth of information.
I love it. It's great product marketer. Know your audience and have the messaging and positioning down. And I love when it works, not just for the customers, but internally. Any other thoughts on executive presence?
I'll just throw a technique at folks that I really hated in college, but I use it every day now in my career. I had a professor who would stop you mid-sentence and say, 10-word rule is in effect. If you can't say that in 10 words, sit back down. And was very aggressive about it. But if you've ever been with an executive that has that power to use as few words as possible, as clearly as possible, it's almost hard to go to work in a company that doesn't have that. You start to tune out because the words keep coming. So I'd say practice that 10-word rule on yourself.
And I would add to that, this is a sales thing, command of the message. So that's a known sales methodology, force management, that whole thing. But command of the message, meaning whatever situation you're walking into, even if you're a jovial person and you like to wing it, you can wing it on the surface, but know your blank cold. And it's like so much so that you don't even need the deck, and you're just commanding the message and you're commanding the outcome. So like, okay, we're here to do this, this, and this. This is what we know. This is what we don't know. Here's what we get to. All right, boom. Like just being able to like that, and everyone. But the key is everyone displays that in their own way. And this is what I tell the team: like, you do not need to be me. I have my own background and a life story that brought me to made me into this. That's me. Find your own inner way to get to command of the message and conviction, and the rest will all start to fall in place. Conviction, actually, I learned about this from our chief product officer. It's a really powerful point. It's like, because in the product side, I mean, they have to pitch 3-year strategies and huge R&D investments. So like, I mean, talk about if you think our stuff is hard, those guys are out there making big R&D bets. So they better have conviction. And so that's a great learning from the product guys as well, as like, hey, how do you walk in and stand behind a strategy? And you can do that at any level. And that you just keep practicing that, and it will pay off in the long run.
Yeah. To that point, speaking of Mythbusters here, fake it till you make it. Thoughts?
Everybody's
Sorry.
fake.
We both came off mute at the same time. But
Everybody's fake. And the minute you learn that, the better off you'll be. Steve Jobs said it. I'm going to mess his paraphrasing up, but the world around you was created by people no smarter than you. You can literally design and create the future if you will it. And I don't know any executive that below the water isn't paddling like that duck analogy. If you look at their inbox and their chat messages, it's 10x yours, yet they're navigating it. And so I think imposter syndrome, I think everybody who's great has it more than even the people who don't dare to be great. Just trust that we're all learning as we go, and the person that you're looking up to actually has doubts about themselves, and you're just evaluating the things they do that you feel like you can't do. Meanwhile, I look down at folks on my team and I say, geez, I never actually learned how to be a great SEO marketer because I never did it hands-on. And so I think you just look at what you don't have and wish for it, and don't let that erode your confidence.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sean. It's so important for product marketers who are thrown into new situations left and right all the time, new products. And also with product marketing, often and most of the time, our peers are more senior than us. So it may seem like everyone around me knows more, and really leaning in, what do you do know? And the curiosity that Diana called out to be able to get there and ask those questions and while also owning the room. It's a big and across the board.
Which
Harish, what
is
were you going to
why,
say? Yeah.
yeah, it's less about so figuratively make it. I think my take on that would be to, projecting confidence and projecting conviction. The thing is, what I mean, is like in technical industries, if you're dealing with a lot of R&D folks or like cybersecurity or IT, like they will see right through you. So, I like now we're in Octane season, so I'm locked in a room with our CEO for the next couple of months, like trying to knock out the main keynote. He will stare into your soul and get to the product truth and ask you the five whys. And like it's very scary, but you have to be able to. And what I've learned is instead of being scared, you just have to prep a lot. And I know what I know. So that's the thing about like, you know, uh, it's less about fake till you make it. It's more about this part of our like PMM leadership principles, intellectual agility. So you need to be able to just bob and weave and think on your feet and in real time pull a few different data sources like, okay, I had this customer conversation, I talked to product, I learned this, I saw this little bit in Salesforce. And you can extrapolate a little bit of a pattern from that because in B2B, especially, you don't need a lot of signal to know where the direction is going. Like patterns tend to, B2C is very different. Like you need huge tests but in everything we do, like you can kind of predict based on a couple of samples. Always have those samples handy and be ready to bob and weave. If you can bob and weave, you're good. It's not faking it, but it's like truly just like thinking on the fly. That I've learned here actually in the last couple of years is like there's nowhere to hide, especially when you're dealing with the C-suite. So you just have to be able to bounce around and like, just be ready for anything.
Let's pivot to the Q&A from the group. One of the top questions is and it's like, maybe 4 years ago, whoever thought we'd get this question, but here we are now. What skills will get automated? Which one should we develop to future-proof our career? Diana, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I think this is the question of the day, or what people call AI anxiety. Like, what part of my job is AI going to take? I think that the PMM skill set on the whole, like your iteration and pace is just going to be faster, and your scope that you can manage is going to be wider because a lot of these core things, building and testing messaging, getting core synthesis from lots of data points, all of your sales calls, all of the sales emails is going to be so much faster with AI, right? So you're going to have to be able to be at that rapid pace. You're going to be able to cover more scope. But I don't think you can automate that curiosity I was talking about before, that you need to have your own point of view. You can't like delegate a point of view on the market, on the message, on the customer, on the product. You can take these inputs much more quickly. You can create content more quickly, but is that content even good? Is it going to resonate? Is that something that you need to own? So my advice would be start using this stuff now. Like use it in your day-to-day, get a point of view on what's good at, what it's not good at. Um, but I think really what's going to change is the pace and the scope and the number of jobs, honestly, they're probably going to be smaller moving forward. But I think for people who have that taste and that curiosity for the customer, you're still going to be okay.
Love it. Other thoughts? What skills are going to get automated?
This has come up a lot. I would say first off, face the fear. If you are in fear of it, you will be replaced by it. Go out and wrap yourself in these tools and learn everything you can, because the people I see using them are 10xing the people who are not. Number two, if possible in your organizations, make it safe to show that you use it. I'll actually share the prompts, or I'll share the way I used AI with my team so they know. They're not guessing that because they saw an M dash, I might have used AI. I'm actually telling them. So look, AI might help you run the process or write the assets, but the world will always need someone to write the story, drive the strategy, read the room, and win the room, so that their products stand out in a noisy world of people competing for attention. That will never go away. It will always be a job, and product marketing will always be a big part of that. But if you want to self-assess and look in the mirror, there's product marketers who skew more toward program manager or project manager. They don't talk to customers as much. They don't understand the competition. That group needs to look, I think, much more closely at their skill set and say, am I really a product marketer? And if I am, how do I elevate the aspects of the customer-facing market understanding, and have that conversation with yourself?
Yeah. And
So
any Harish?
yeah, so both
Yeah.
so those are absolutely for internal use of AI. So kind of learning, and then majority of that work still will be around usage of large language models for content generation and speeding up content. My push to every PMM would actually be learn the technology itself, because before you know it, every one of your customers is going to need to front their company with an MCP. Otherwise, they're going to go out of business. Every one of your customers is going to look for domain-specific agents to deploy within their organization. And chances are you have some angle into that. Your own company might be thinking about creating agents if you're on the B2B SaaS vendor side. And you need to, like, so knowing what models are, what reasoning is, what inference is, what, chaining of agents is, what A to A is, what MCP is, that's the new language that was cloud 10 years ago. Right now, everyone can talk about containers and workloads and Lambdas and DevOps and CI/CD. That's just language. This is the new language for anybody in tech. So I would say using the tools, yes, but the way to become like a true killer is actually learn the technology itself. Now, I'm not saying you got to get an account on Lovable and code an app. If you do that, great. I'm not saying you got to go to LangGraph and create an agent, but at least know how it works. Like NVIDIA has a phenomenal podcast on how did this stuff, as I'm sure ServiceNow has some great stuff there too, because you guys are deep in AI. But like that, I think will separate the new wave, because we're literally in the middle of the third big revolution. I mean, everyone has their number of revolutions. This is like the equivalent of cloud, but it's happening at 10x the speed because we've already seen that movement happen before. So people are faster to adopt technology. So just learn that general language. That's going to make you very powerful.
I totally agree, Harish, and also understanding what new is possible for your product
Yeah.
with these tools, right? What are
Yes.
things that you haven't done before? Because it's going to change what can be built. So I totally agree that that's a fantastic recommendation. Honestly, to be personal, that is why I left the company I was at and I'm joining a new company, because I feel like it's so important to be in it every day and see what's going on with this market,
Yeah.
that that's where I'm moving to in my next role. Um, Not that there's anything, wrong or bad about HashiCorp. I think it's a fantastic company, but it's more in that cloud world, and I want to be where
Mhm.
the new set of learning is. So that's personally what I've chosen to do with my career next.
In
Yeah, it's going
spirit
to be
of
a there's going to be a new generation of, not new in terms of newer in the workforce, but everyone I feel like has a reset moment right now, and just increasing your AI acumen. This is going to be very
Mhm.
powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, keeping that curiosity twofold, hands-on keyboard, using it, and then understanding how it's all working from those points. Switching to the top voted question that we have here. What skills as product marketing leaders do you look for in potential candidates, especially mid, senior level? And what are some of the signals that they have those skills? Diana, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So when I'm looking for mid to senior level people, a lot of the stuff we've talked about today comes up, but I'm looking for structured thinkers. Do you have an approach to solving problems? Do you have a way you think about things? It doesn't mean that you're rigid and you don't change, but you say, okay, there's a positioning problem, there's a messaging problem. I know how to diagnose what the problems are, and I have an approach for how I can solve that. That's something I look for in mid to senior leaders. But there's kind of also a balance of when do they change what's worked before because it's no longer relevant based on whatever the context or situation is at hand. So I'm looking for the balance of those two things. How do they switch? How do they adopt? Also, I'm really looking for people. It doesn't matter how big your company is. Like I was just acquired by IBM at HashiCorp. Um, can you thrive in ambiguity? Can you get things done when there's roadblocks and do that on behalf of your team? The bigger you are in leadership, that is just critical. Like you can't be handheld. You need to know what the goals are, what the problems are, and just be able to define the path and go forth. So those are some beyond, obviously you have to be good at messaging and all that stuff. Those are some of the things I really look for.
Love it. Sean, what do you look for?
I have a couple of really simple ones that I'll give out as cheat codes if we ever meet. Think about what's the first question almost everybody asks you in an interview?
Tell
I
me about
think I feel
yourself.
safe thing. Oh, you've got it. I didn't even have to gamble. Tell me about yourself. That's my first test. I am buying something and you are selling something. And 9 times out of 10, people answer that question with a harbor cruise of a bunch of irrelevant stuff. The people that crush it often will stop me and ask me a few questions first. Oh yeah, great. I just have one question before we get into that. And they're doing what a great product marketer does. They're like, what does this customer want most? Meeting with 5 people in the interview process, I shouldn't assume they all are looking for the same thing. So ask a question to understand what you're dealing with, and then tune the answer, show that you can map your solution to the problem that customer's buying. It's such a simple twist, but you can see the people who come in and absolutely nail it. So I really like that one. Probably leave it there and maybe flip it to you. Brian, what do you look for?
I look for someone who can have a point of view, be able to clearly communicate that point of view, and influence others with that point of view. And that's what's going to set them up for success as a product marketer. And so also, if they're able to do that, to your point, in an interview, are they able to have a point of view about something and be able to communicate it clearly, concisely, 10 words, and then influence me that they're the one from that lens, and have experiences where they've been able to highlight where they have uniquely added value. So one question I always ask is, I'll ask, like, tell me your most challenging project. I'd say challenging to really understand, like, what made it challenging? How challenging was this? And then I ask the question, what's your unique value prop, in the sense, if you weren't there, how would the results or approach be different, to understand the unique value that they added? And so that really helps me understand what was their footprint on that project and help bring to life from that piece.
I
Harish,
would
what's
add,
yours?
yeah, I would. So just a different point of view. For me, like if I'm hiring a leader role, like maybe there's a one or two, there's a couple of people underneath. I'm looking for folks that have done the hard thing in teams and either turned around somebody or showed them a different way. Because we all know, like we all been talking about, like it's well, and the questions also are like the market's getting harder, the bar is being raised every day. We are being pushed to raise the bar on ourselves or about our companies. We're all at, pretty highly competitive companies in very tough industries. So for me, like I'm looking for, like, are you someone who can make the hard calls? And do you have a story about like what is your bar of performance? Were you able to turn somebody around performance, or did you show them, a different path? And if people have that story, then, and it's not, if someone's like, well, I haven't been around long enough, like, no, the minute you have any kind of leadership role, your job is to build the roster. You're building the best roster possible. You're here to make the company successful. So if you can adopt that attitude, you're good in my book. So that performance management piece is very important to me.
I love it. I feel like we could talk here forever. I don't know about you. Really enjoying this conversation. I'm personally learning a lot. My takeaways here, and wrapping it up, the power of curiosity in all aspects of what you touch, whether it's the customer, whether it's the sales team, whether it's the product itself. Dive into that curiosity, as well as big hits, not big lists. Thanks, Sean. Intellectual agility. Thanks, Harish. And, you know, um, really tapping into that, being authentic throughout it all. And with that, I want to thank Alex and Sharebird. Grateful for this platform to bring us all together to have these real conversations. I always say these are the things you don't always talk about on LinkedIn, that it's like, this is how real work gets done. This is how I've really navigated. This is how I've really learned. And so thank you for all the questions. Thank you for Diana, Harish, and Sean sharing your perspectives and insights to make us all that much greater.